Serfs. Before sunrise, the serfs were already at work, ploughing, sowing, repairing fences that weren't theirs. They were bound to the land, unable to leave, marry, or sell property without their lord's consent. In return for protection and a hut to sleep in, they owed days of unpaid labour and heavy taxes. A serf's world stretched no farther than the manor fields. Each week they toiled on the lord's domain, and only then could they tend to their own crops to survive. They weren't slaves, but they weren't free either, chained to the same soil for generations. Still, life wasn't entirely bleak. Faith, festivals, and family gave small moments of colour in a hard life. The serfs were the base of the pyramid, the hands that fed everyone above them. Without their labour, the entire medieval system would have collapsed. The free peasants looked much like the serfs, same tools, same calloused hands, but one thing set them apart: freedom. They could move, bargain, or leave a lord's land altogether. Instead of giving labour, they paid rent, sometimes in coin, sometimes in crops or livestock. This freedom gave them choice, and choice meant opportunity. Some became prosperous yeomen, owning their own farms and even hiring others to work for them. They lived simply, but with dignity. No master could force their hand. In a world still chained to feudal custom, free peasants were the quiet sign of change. They marked the shift from service and obligation towards a money economy. The low clergy, the monks, parish priests and nuns, lived among the people, poor in wealth but rich in authority. They baptized children, heard confessions, blessed marriages, and buried the dead. Monks copied books by candlelight, brewed ale, and tended gardens inside monastery walls. They preserved the knowledge that kings and nobles couldn't read, and their words shaped how entire communities saw sin, salvation, and justice. Most lived humble, devoted lives, though the church's power could breed corruption too. But even when they were flawed, the clergy held immense sway. In a time when heaven felt closer and hell more real, the priest's word matters as much as the noble's sword. Beyond the castles and fields rose a new kind of power, the burghers. Merchants, craftsmen, and guildmasters built their fortunes not from land but from trade. In bustling cities like Bruges, Florence, and Lubeck, workshops rang with the sound of hammers and market bells. Guilds controlled prices, quality, and apprenticeships, turning skills into stability. A clever merchant could earn more than a knight, and money, not birth, decided rank. The rise of the burghers changed Europe forever. They challenged nobles with coin instead of swords, financing kings and armies. Trade routes replaced feudal roads. Gold replaced grain as the measure of power. They weren't warriors or lords, but in time, their ledgers reshaped the world more than any battle ever could. The knights. Clad in steel, mounted on horseback, the knight was the armoured face of medieval power. They trained from childhood, learning to fight, ride, and live by the code of chivalry, though few truly followed it. In return for land and favour, they pledged loyalty and protection to their lord. But knighthood wasn't just earned through valour, it was bought through wealth. A single suit of armour could cost as much as a small village, and many knights owed more to fortune than to faith. Manuscripts like the Maciejewski Bible show the brutal truth: lances shattering, swords biting through chainmail, blood soaking into mud. To peasants, knights were both guardians and oppressors. To kings, they were the essential tool of rule, loyal when rewarded, dangerous when not. Beneath the ideals of chivalry laid a world built on strength, honour, and the iron will to survive. The high clergy. Bishops and abbots controlled vast lands, collected tithes, and advised kings. Their cathedrals rose higher than any castle, symbols of divine power made stone. The church owned a staggering share of Europe's land, and with it came wealth and armies. A bishop might ride to battle under the cross. An abbot could command hundreds of men. They sat on royal councils, crowned monarchs, and decided which wars were holy. For peasants, priests offered salvation. For rulers, bishops offered legitimacy. Between heaven and earth, the high clergy held both, and they wielded it like a weapon. The great nobles. These were the king's power brokers, dukes, counts, and barons who ruled entire regions like miniature kingdoms. Their castles loomed over valleys and rivers, reminders that land meant control. They collected taxes, held courts, and commanded armies of knights. In theory, they served the king. In reality, many were strong enough to challenge him. France's barons forced their monarchs into charters like Magna Carta, and civil wars often erupted over pride and territory. A single noble's loyalty could decide the fate of a realm. Their word could summon hundreds to war or crush a peasant's revolt overnight. They were both the crown's foundation and its greatest threat, bound by oaths that could be broken with the swing of a sword. At the top of the pyramid stood the king, the source of all land, law, and loyalty. Every manor, every title, every sword ultimately traced back to him. He ruled by divine right, claiming authority from God himself. But power depended on strength and cunning as much as faith. Strong kings like England's Edward I or France's Philip II could bend nobles to their will. Weak ones became their prisoners in all but name. Royal coronations blurred politics and religion, the anointing oil making mortal men seem holy. The king's justice decided disputes, granted land, or took it away. He was the symbol of the entire feudal order, a single man standing atop a chain of oaths, armies, and obligations. When a kingdom fell, it was said that the crown cracked first. That's all for this video. Feel free to subscribe for more releases each week.